federal building in the heart of Manhattan. A Monday morning in July. Thousands of employees inside. Hundreds of visitors expected before lunch. At 8:20 a.m., a man pushes a cart toward the employee entrance. Inside it, gasoline, fireworks, 2 guns built to fire hard plastic pellets. In his bag, according to federal officials, a written manifesto. Within seconds, flames climbed the side of the building. Gunfire, or something that sounds like it, sends people diving into the bushes lining the plaza. By the time it is over, 3 people are hurt, and a federal security officer has pinned a 43-year-old Army veteran to the pavement. Investigators would later say the man had been planning this moment for 6 months. This is the case of Andrew Arrabaca and the attack on 26 Federal Plaza. Lower Manhattan, Monday, July 20th, 2026. It is 8:20 in the morning. The work week is just beginning. Federal employees are arriving at their desks. Immigrants with pending cases are arriving for scheduled hearings. Visitors are lining up for routine business inside a nondescript government tower known simply by its address, 26 Federal Plaza. The building is not just an office block. It is a hub. Inside its floors sit the FBI's New York field office, the regional headquarters of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and an immigration court where hundreds of cases are heard every month. Thousands of federal employees pass through its doors daily. Hundreds more visitors arrive on top of that. Many of them people navigating the immigration system, waiting on a hearing that could shape whether they remain in this country or are ordered to leave it. It is, in other words, one of the most sensitive federal buildings in New York City. And on this particular Monday, it becomes the scene of an attack federal investigators would later describe as calculated and targeted. According to investigators, a man pushed a cart toward the employee entrance shortly after 8:20 a.m. He carried with him gasoline. He carried fireworks. He carried 2 air-powered guns designed to fire hard plastic pellets. And according to the Department of Homeland Security, tucked inside his bag was something else entirely. A written manifesto. He poured the gasoline onto the pavement near the entrance. He ignited it, first, officials say, with a lighter, and then with a large firework used as an accelerant. Flames and thick black smoke climbed the outside wall of the building, visible from the street and from surrounding office towers. Then, according to FBI Assistant Director in Charge, James Barnacle, the man raised one of his pellet guns and fired 5 to 7 rounds toward the entrance. For the people standing nearby, there was no way to know in that instant whether the rounds were pellets or live ammunition. Witnesses and officials describe a scene of pure chaos. People scattering, some diving into the bushes lining the plaza to get out of the light of fire. 3 people were hurt in those first chaotic seconds. 2 of them federal government employees, and 1 a civilian. Among the injured, according to reporting on the case, was an immigrant who had come to the building that very morning for a scheduled hearing. Someone whose only connection to the events unfolding around them was an appointment with the federal government's immigration system. Within moments, a federal security officer moved in. He tackled the man and pinned him to the ground before anyone else could be hurt. The attack that investigators say had been building for 6 months was over in a matter of minutes. The man's name was Andrew Arrabaca. He was 43 years old. By the following day, his name and his photograph would be circulating nationally, on cable news, on the Justice Department's own website, and across social media, where the video of smoke rising outside 26 Federal Plaza was already being shared by tens of thousands of accounts. Who was Andrew Arrabaca before that Monday morning? According to federal officials, Arrabaca was a former United States Army soldier. He served from 2001 to 2005, working as a mechanic assigned to Patriot missile systems, the same air defense platform the U.S. military has deployed for decades to guard against incoming aircraft and missiles. It is a technical job, one that requires training and precision. By all accounts made public so far, Arrabaca had no criminal record before July 20th, 2026, a fact his own defense attorney would raise directly in court. By the time of the attack, Arrabaca was living in Poughkeepsie, New York, a city roughly 90 miles north of the building he is accused of targeting. Federal prosecutors allege that what happened at 26 Federal Plaza was not an impulsive act carried out in a single moment of anger. It was, in the words of prosecutors, a plan that unfolded over roughly 6 months. A plan with a timeline, a shopping list, and a target selected only after careful consideration. According to court statements, Arrabaca began preparing in January of 2026, nearly half a year before the attack took place. Investigators say he traveled upstate to purchase a pellet gun and a separate BB gun. From there, prosecutors allege he crossed state lines into Pennsylvania, specifically to buy fireworks. The same fireworks federal officials say he later used to help ignite the gasoline outside the building. Prosecutors say Arrabaca did not settle on 26 Federal Plaza right away. According to court statements, he visited and scouted several other locations around New York City in the months leading up to the attack, weighing his options before making a final decision. One line from the government's account of the case, delivered in court, captures the deliberateness prosecutors say defined his planning. After months of consideration and preparation, they allege Arrabaca decided to attack 26 Federal Plaza specifically. And the day before the attack, he made his way downtown, carrying what officials described as a small arsenal. That arsenal, according to the FBI, went well beyond the pellet guns he ultimately fired. Investigators say he was carrying 2 axes, a hammer, a machete, 3 knives, and multiple incendiary devices, in addition to the 2 guns. Investigators also recovered a written manifesto from his belongings, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Officials say he was carrying anti-ICE literature at the time of his arrest, and that he shouted derogatory remarks about immigration enforcement as officers took him into custody. FBI Assistant Director in Charge, James Barnacle, described Arrabaca's alleged motivation in blunt terms at a press conference following the arrest. He called Arrabaca an anti-American, anti-government extremist. According to Barnacle, Arrabaca told investigators after his arrest that he had been targeting the building specifically, and that he was willing to hurt or kill anyone who entered or exited it that morning, whether they were federal employees or private civilians who had no connection to the government at all. In the Justice Department's own written account of the case, FBI official James C. Barnacle Jr. stated that Arrabaca's alleged acts appear to have been motivated by his personal views. Views officials have consistently characterized as anti-government and specifically anti-ICE in nature. It is a portrait that on its surface appears contradictory. A soldier who once maintained missile defense systems for the United States military, later accused of planning an attack against a building that houses federal law enforcement. Investigators have not offered a detailed public account of what happened between Arrabaca's discharge from the Army in 2005 and the attack more than 2 decades later. What is known, according to officials, is that the man who arrived at 26 Federal Plaza that Monday morning had spent 6 months preparing for that exact moment. The federal case against Andrew Arrabaca moved quickly. He was arrested at the scene on July 20th. The very next day, he appeared before U.S. Magistrate Judge Robin F. Tarnofsky in a Manhattan federal courtroom. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, Arrabaca is charged with destruction of property owned or leased by the United States by means of fire or explosives, with the charge enhanced because his alleged actions caused personal injury, or at minimum, a substantial risk of injury to others. That single charge carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 7 years in federal prison. The maximum sentence, prosecutors noted publicly, is 40 years. Officials were careful to note that these figures are set by Congress and are provided for informational purposes only. Any actual sentence would ultimately be determined by a judge following conviction. if the case reaches that point. United States Attorney Jay Clayton announced the charges alongside FBI Assistant Director Barnacle, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, and Federal Protective Service Regional Director Robert Suter. Clayton described the incident in stark terms, a scene of destruction and mayhem, he said, carried out at the entrance of a building that houses thousands of federal employees and receives hundreds of visitors every single day. Inside the courtroom, Arrabaca did not enter a plea. Court observers described him entering wearing all black and a pair of glasses, staring straight ahead through much of the proceeding, showing little visible reaction to the arguments being made about his fate. Prosecutors argued for detention. They pointed to the months of alleged planning, the interstate travel to purchase pellet guns and fireworks, the scouting of multiple potential targets, and the arsenal of bladed weapons and incendiary devices found in his possession. They told the court that Arrabaca represented a danger to the public and asked the judge to hold him without bail pending trial. His defense attorney offered a different portrait of the man standing before the court. Arrabaca, the defense argued, was an Army veteran with no criminal history, someone experiencing what his attorney described as an underlying mental health issue. The defense told the judge that Arrabaca's expressed intention that morning was not to cause harm to any person, but rather to cause damage to property. His attorney pointed specifically to words written on the helmet Arrabaca wore during the attack, words that, according to the defense, suggested suicidal thoughts rather than an intent to harm others. On the strength of that argument, his attorney asked the judge to release Arrabaca so he could be evaluated and treated at a Veterans Affairs facility rather than held in federal detention. Judge Tarnowski did not accept that argument. "The crime you're charged with is troubling," she told Arrabaca directly. She went on to note that the attack, in her words, wasn't something that was done on a Sunday. A reference, officials say, to the fact that the building was fully staffed and open to the public at the time the fire was set, meaning the potential for harm was far greater than if the attack had occurred when the building was empty. The judge acknowledged the defense's mental health concerns directly. She stated, for the record, that Arrabaca was, in her words, someone who served the country and is quite clearly ill. But she said she remained unconvinced that he would comply with treatment if released, noting pointedly that VA mental health services had been available to him before the attack, and that he had not made use of them. "The problem I'm having," Tarnowski said, "is he had access to those services before, and he wasn't availing himself." Judge Tarnowski ordered Arrabaca detained without bail pending further proceedings. She directed prosecutors to ensure that the Bureau of Prisons conduct a mental health evaluation of Arrabaca at the Metropolitan Detention Center within 48 hours of her order, a directive that reflected the court's own acknowledgement that mental illness may be a central factor in this case, even as it proceeds through the criminal justice system rather than a civil or psychiatric one. Arrabaca's next scheduled court. To understand why this case drew national attention within hours of the fire being extinguished, it helps to understand exactly where it happened and when. 26 Federal Plaza sits in the heart of Lower Manhattan Civic Center, surrounded by other government buildings and courthouses. For months prior to the July attack, the building had already been a site of public demonstrations targeting immigration and customs enforcement, part of a broader wave of protests connected to the federal government's immigration enforcement operations nationwide. Crowds gathering outside the building to protest ICE activity had become, by mid-2026, a familiar sight to anyone who worked or lived in the surrounding blocks. That context matters to investigators, and it shapes how this case is being understood publicly. According to the FBI, Arrabaca's own alleged statements, along with the literature recovered from his possession, tied his actions directly to that ongoing national debate over immigration enforcement, not, officials say, to any personal grievance against a specific individual, but to the federal agency itself, and to the building that houses it. It is worth stating plainly what officials have said publicly. and being equally plain about what remains an open question for the court to resolve. Officials have described Arrabaca's alleged motive as anti-ICE and anti-government in nature, based on the manifesto and literature recovered from the scene, and based on statements he is alleged to have made to investigators following his arrest. What remains for the court to determine, through the ordinary process of a criminal prosecution, is the full extent of his criminal responsibility, and how the mental health condition raised by his own attorney and acknowledged even by the judge who ordered his detention factored into the events of that morning. Federal investigators have repeatedly emphasized one detail above nearly all others. In their telling, this was not a spontaneous act carried out in a moment of crisis. It was deliberate. 6 months of purchases, travel, reconnaissance, and preparation, prosecutors allege, culminating in a single morning outside a single building. The physical evidence recovered from the scene and from Arrabaca's possession has led investigators to characterize the potential danger of that morning as far greater than what ultimately occurred. 2 axes, a hammer, a machete, 3 knives, multiple incendiary devices, 2 pellet guns, one of which was actually discharged toward the building. 3 people were injured that morning. But federal officials, including the judge who ordered Arrabaca detained, had suggested, without overstating what happened, that the outcome could have been considerably worse had the security officer not intervened when he did. The case is now being investigated by the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force in New York, a multi-agency unit made up of investigators and analysts from the FBI, the NYPD, and more than 50 other federal, state, and local agencies. The task force's involvement is itself a signal. It suggests that authorities are treating the events of July 20th not merely as an act of property destruction, but as a potential act of domestic terrorism. Even though the formal charge currently filed against Arrabaca is arson, tied specifically to the federal property destruction statute rather than a terrorism statute. United States Attorney Jay Clayton publicly credited the Federal Protective Service and the FBI's New York field office for their response that morning, along with the Joint Terrorism Task Force for the investigative work that followed. Work that, according to officials, is ongoing, with additional charges against Arrabaca still considered possible as the case develops. Within hours of the attack, video of the smoke rising outside 26 Federal Plaza had already spread across social media platforms, shared by news accounts, political commentators, and members of the public alike. The reaction split almost immediately along the same fault lines that already defined the national debate over immigration enforcement. Some who shared the footage focused on Arrabaca's military service, questioning how a trained veteran could end up accused of an attack like this one. Others focused on the anti-ICE literature and statements attributed to him by investigators, framing the incident as an act of political violence tied to opposition to federal immigration policy. Federal officials, for their part, have been careful in their public statements to draw a line between the facts they can support with evidence, the purchases, the travel, the weapons recovered, the statements Arrabaca allegedly made after his arrest, and the broader political debate that the case has been drawn into online. FBI Assistant Director Barnacle's characterization of Arrabaca as an anti-government extremist was made in the context of a specific criminal investigation, based on evidence recovered from the scene and statements attributed to Arrabaca himself, not as a broader commentary on any political movement. That distinction may matter a great deal as this case moves toward its next stages. The manifesto recovered from Arrabaca's bag, along with any other evidence gathered by the Joint Terrorism Task Force, will likely play a central role in how prosecutors ultimately frame his motive and intent, if and when the case proceeds to trial. As of this recording, Andrew Arrabaca remains in federal custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where he has been ordered to undergo a mental health evaluation. He has not entered a plea to the arson charge filed against him. Additional charges remain possible as the investigation continues, according to federal officials tracking the case. His next court date is scheduled for August 4, 2026, in the Southern District of New York. The questions at the center of this case are not simple ones, and they are not yet resolved. Was this the act of a man radicalized by anti-government ideology, executing a plan built over 6 months of deliberate preparation, travel, and reconnaissance? Or was this the act of a veteran in the grip of untreated mental illness? A man his own attorney says never intended to harm another human being, only property. Or, as both the prosecution and the presiding judge seem to suggest in that Manhattan courtroom, could both of those things be true of the same person at the same time? The court will decide. The mental health evaluation ordered by Judge Tarnowski may shape how prosecutors choose to proceed from here, and whether additional charges, potentially tied more directly to terrorism statutes, are ultimately filed. And the events of that Monday morning at 26 Federal Plaza, captured on video and debated across social media within hours of the fire being put out, will likely remain part of the national conversation around political violence and immigration enforcement for months to come. This case remains active. Nothing in this account should be read as a final judgment of guilt or innocence. That determination belongs to a jury, or to a judge, in a court of law, not to the internet, and not to this documentary. This case is active and ongoing. All individuals named in connection with these charges are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Anyone with information related to this case is encouraged to contact the FBI's New York field office directly, or to submit a tip through tips.fbi.gov. Subscribe to Behind the Case File for more true crime investigation covered with accuracy and respect.